English, Standard 12, Unit 4, Prose, The Summit, written by Edmund Hillary. This prose unit is slightly adapted excerpt from The Ascent of Everest by John Hunt, who led the expedition. In this lesson, Sir Edmund Hillary's own words tells how the summit of the Everest was reached. Sir Edmund Hillary, in his own words, says how the summit of the Everest was reached. On May 28, 1953, there were 6 men at Camp 8 on the South Pole. May 28, 1953. There were 6 men at Camp 8 on the South Pole. Edmund Hillary, Tenzing, George Lowe, Alfred Gregory, and the 2 Sherpas, Pampa and Anyama. Pampa was too ill to climb. The others climbed that day to a height of 27,900 feet. See, the height of 27,900 feet. They climbed up. But they couldn't climb further. Hillary and Tenzing did not give up their spirit. They decided to proceed towards the summit the next day with a strong determination. So they put up a little tent to take rest. The other companions went down the ridge back towards the South Pole camp. The other companions went down the ridge back towards the South Pole camp. Next morning at 4 a.m. on May 29th, they began to get ready for the climb. Hillary and Tenzing began to get ready for the climb. We started up our cooker and drank large quantities of lemon juice and sugar, and followed this with our last tin of sardines and biscuits. Sardines means a kind of fish. A small fish, silver colored fish, cooked ones. Okay, small silver colored fish. So small silver colored fish. So a tin of sardines means that is a fish cooked. A tin of cooked fish. Okay. I dragged our oxygen sets into this tent, cleaned the ice off them, and then rechecked and tested them. They heated and drank large quantities of lemon juice and sugar. They ate the last tin of sardines and biscuits. They removed ice of their oxygen sets and cleaned the ice of them. They also rechecked and tested them. They also rechecked and tested the oxygen sets. They made preparations for their great adventure early in the morning. That is clearly explained in first 2 paragraphs. At 6:30 a.m., they crawled out of their tent into the snow. They began their historical expedition towards the summit. They lifted up their oxygen gear onto their backs. They connected up their masks and turned on the valves to bring oxygen into their lungs. They took a few deep breaths. Then they started to move. They connected up their masks and turned on the valves to bring oxygen into their lungs. They took a few deep breaths, and then they started to move. Tensing kicked steps in a long traverse back towards the ridge, and we reached its crest, where it forms a great snow bump at about 28,000 feet. From here, the ridge narrowed to a knife edge, and as my feet were now warm, I took over the lead. Traverse means the name given for crossing a mountain slope horizontally or diagonally. So traverse means the name given for crossing a mountain slope horizontally or diagonally. Ridge, a long narrow hilltop. Ridge. A long narrow hilltop. Gorge, an instrument to measure. Gorge is an instrument to measure. They have some instruments to measure the depthness of the thickness of the snow and so on. Hillary and Tenzing reached the crest, where a snow bump was formed at about 28,000 feet. From there, the ridge narrowed to a knife edge. First, Hillary took the lead. The soft snow was slippery, difficult and dangerous. It could not bear the weight of Hillary and gave way suddenly. On their way, Hillary found 2 oxygen bottles. On their way, Hillary found 2 oxygen bottles in a tiny hollow. They had been left there on earlier attempt by Evans and Fordelin. There were trekkers who made attempts earlier, but it became failure. They left 2 oxygen bottles there. Hillary and Tenzing took the bottles that contained several hundred liters of oxygen. They kept it safe for their emergency. When a portion of ice gave way, Hillary discussed with Tenzing the advisability of going on, and he, although admitting that he felt unhappy about the snow conditions, and finished with his familiar phrase, "just as you wish." So, when they found that it was so difficult to continue their trekking, Hillary asked Tenzing whether to continue or not. But Tenzing usually said his phrase, "just as you wish." They decided to go on finally. They reached firmer snow higher up and then chipped steps up the last steep slopes and cramped on to the south peak at 9 a.m. I decided to go on, and we finally reached firmer snow higher up and then chipped steps up the last steep slopes and crammed on to the south peak. It was now 9 a.m. when they crammed on to the south peak. It was 9 a.m. Let us continue reading and understand the thrilling final day adventure of our 2 heroes, the world famous trekkers, in the next class.